welcome to my channel. If you're new here, go ahead and click on the like button and the subscription button. This channel is all about spirituality, awakening, being aware, learning, self-development, developing yourself, not only on this physical side, but also on the spiritual side, on the energetic side. Today we're going to be speaking about a very interesting topic, right? So if you are interested in spirituality, yes, go ahead and subscribe to this channel because it's all about the spiritual part of who we are and how we can actually evolve and change our current state of mind to a more awakening, expanded sense of self. Okay, and I also do tarot readings as well, right? But today we're going to talk about spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is like a buzzword these days. Everybody's talking about the spiritual awakening and all the other stuff, right? Because there's a big focus on spirituality. People moved away or moving away from the religious way of thinking, the religious way of even operating, right? So now we have this concept of spiritual awakening. What is it? Spiritual awakening is a profound shift of consciousness, okay? Profound shift of consciousness where you begin to see life through a deeper, more connected, more insightful way of seeing things in a truthful sense. You want the truth. It all begins with you wanting to understand that what's really going on here in this reality, right? This matrix illusional reality. Okay, because remember, not every person is awakening, and not every person is awakening at the same time. Okay, so people that are awakening at this time to what's really happening in this reality, or people that are meant to awaken, people that have a schedule set already within in their life scripts. Okay, so the awakening can be quite a scary, confusing process, especially at the beginning of your process. Like mine was simply, okay, I started questioning my reality. Something happened that triggered a change in my own choice, my own personal choice regards to leaving the church, because I was actually very active in the church, right? So sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes it happens when somebody's just curious about life experience, okay? It depends. Every person's experience will be different in terms of it, awakening to the truth and wanting to understand. So it can be a very slow process at first, you just got this urge and this need to understand. You get to see, understand that no, there's something wrong in this reality. I mean, things are not what they say they are. You start questioning maybe your religious leaders, and they can't answer, right? They have no answers, and they keep on telling you, no, you should not be asking those questions. A good Christian or a good Muslim should not be asking these questions. Just trust and believe that God knows the right, is leading you to the right path. Okay, it's all about the trust. But you're looking around and you're seeing people living their lives, not authentically living because in their lives, because they're forced to live like that, right? They have no choice. It's like they're just falling, into the whole process, the whole program, and they feel helpless. So if you go to any person and then you ask them what's the purpose of going to church? What's the purpose of doing these things? What's the purpose of having this belief? People cannot answer you, right? Because they're afraid to actually ask those questions and be taken out of their comfort zone. Because when you come to a point of spiritual awakening, your mind, your consciousness is taken out of the comfort zone. Now you dare to ask those questions, right? Questions that are not asked by most people in your community, in your inner circle, in your tribe, right? So you are asking those questions, okay? So now let's go to what triggers an awakening, which is quite interesting. What does trigger an awakening? Sometimes it's a loss, it's a trauma, or a major life change, right? I think that for me as well, it was a loss, kind of. It was a trauma. Because after I left the church, then I left the country, and I left my comfort zone. I left the job that I've been working for many, many years, but I was not very happy in that job, right? I needed something different. I knew that this place was not a place for me to actually be successful or even prosper or even progress, right? So I made that decision, which was very traumatic, and it was life changing to leave that job and try something new. I left the country. I went to one of the Arab countries, and I in Dubai, and I kind of had a contract there for about a year, almost 2 years, right? Just to experience life differently, try something different, because I knew that the way I was living was not like the totality of life, because you're getting very curious The awakening is about your curiosity about life. You want to ask these questions. You want to know what's going on. Okay, so that's one of them. Okay, the second one could be a near-death experience. A near-death experience or illness can also trigger an awakening, right? Like, yeah, you hear people talking about near-death experiences. Like, for example, they maybe they died for a few minutes or something like, or they almost died, and they come back and they want to tell the story because they had the experience of the other side. They were given a glimpse, just to trigger an awakening, that kind of thing. So that can also trigger your awakening, a near-death experience. And the third one could be an intense love or heartbreak. A heartbreak can also trigger an experience of awakening, spiritual awakening, okay? And then the other one is also a psychedelic or mystical experiences. So a lot of people want to try the psychedelics, those drugs that open you up and you get to see. But now, remember, not every person will experience it in a positive way. Sometimes the psychedelics can cause a kind of disturbance in your consciousness because it's too soon. You're not ready for that information. You're not ready to be like cracked open and to see that, my God, I've been living in an illusional type of reality, right? That kind of thing, that this is not a real thing, that life is actually so wonderful. All these things that I've been living are actually parts of the matrix, right? So the psychedelics one, I've never tried it, and I don't have any intentions on doing psychedelics, right? Because of the fact that my awakening was different. You get my point, it was different. So after I just basically like left the church, left the country, I went overseas to a country that was way different to my culture, so spiritual. And I had no idea that country was that spiritual, right? So basically, what happens is that I got exposed to a lot of energies that side that were not in the country where I'm from, right? So those energies, I think they also triggered my interest in meditation, Kundalini awakening, and stuff like that, right? So I started learning all those things because what happens is this: when you are ready for the information starts coming in slowly, trickling in, right? So the awakening is something about new information, new understanding, for you to get to understand that you are not just your body, that there's something more than your body. You are also divine source, you divine spirit, that you all have a subtle spirit that's ready to, to be expressed. You're not just that persona, that's a political persona that you are so and so living in the matrix. You understand? Thank you for joining my live, right? I'm talking about spiritual awakening today, right? Which is quite an interesting topic, right? Now I'm gonna try and compare it to what happens when you're in religious following a religious dogma type of thing, and when you go into spirituality, right? Now spirituality is very broad, right? Because it has no like rules or regulation. There's no structure around spirituality, but there's a great structure around religion, right? So I'm not here to say if the religion is bad or good, whatever. I'm just giving information on my own experience on what an awakening really is, and why it should not be taken lightly. It's not something like a trend. Everybody now is saying that when you look a certain way, you dress a certain way, or you behave a certain way, then you're actually a spiritual person. Now, it's like becoming like a fab, how would I say, a social thing that people want to express because they feel, okay, now, for me to be spiritual, I must be able, maybe I must collect crystals, maybe I must do the tarot and stuff like that, right? So for me, I do tarot now, but when I started my spirituality part, I never go into tarot because tarot was not what my guide showed to me, basically, right? But I was shown crystals. I was drawn to crystals. I started learning about crystals when I was overseas in UAE, right? I when I was working there, then I learned about crystals, all the basic spiritual things. I learned about spell work. I learned about witchcraft. I learned all those things because I was curious. I wanted to know. And the story is that way before I even had my awakening, way before I left the church, I used to work in an organization. We used to do night shift, and I was always curious and Googling different concepts about what is devil worshipping, satanism. I wanted to know all those things because we were told that, oh, these things are scary. You don't even think about it because whatever, right? The whole idea is that religion teaches you fear, and that fear doesn't allow you to be curious and go do the research because you're just so scared of what you're going to find on the other end, right? Because of the fear that's instilled in your religious teachings, okay? So now, spirituality is all about you having an internal shift, right? It's about you. It's about your internal life, your own internal experience. Religion is an outside experience where you have to go to a church, belong to a organization, and have a group of people and belong to this organization, right? Which is a sense of belonging. You get my point? I understand where that's coming from anyway, right? And there's nothing wrong or right about that. But anyway, it takes you away from yourself. And you actually serving an entity, a God that is outside of you. So all of you people gather with all your issues and problems in one big building, and you're here to serve this one God that you can never see and you don't know, and y'all are told that y'all are lesser than this God, that this God is now y'all's leader, y'all's father, and y'all are all children, and now you must depend on this specific God, the God of is it the God of the Jews actually, right? That's where Christianity is coming from, okay? But anyway, so the shift will happen, okay? You will sense that something is different forever, something, because once you get that awakening, your life changes totally. You don't see life the same. You don't see people the same. You don't see your family the same. You don't see even your workspace and where you work, your career, your physical, mundane life doesn't feel the same. Right? You'll change forever within yourself, all right? Because you dare to ask a question, you dare to say yes to this awakening, right? You start questioning all your beliefs, every belief systems, your identity, your social norms. You start questioning all these things, right? Because awakening demands you to wake up and understand what's going on and question it, demands it, right? Without the questioning, you cannot get the awakening, because then you're asking questions, right? And when you ask questions, you shall get answers. And those answers now are going to make you see life differently, make you see and think of yourself as yourself differently. That's the whole idea about awakening, okay? So it's a deep longing for meaning, purpose, and truth. You want a deep longing for meaning, purpose, and truth, right? You want to understand what's the meaning of life. Is it all only about getting up and going to work, going to school, getting married, having children, paying bills, maybe doing sport things, physical activities and stuff like that? You want to know what's going on, what's life all about, right? Then you suddenly get downloads and insights. Okay, now this happened to me after I started meditating. Okay, for me, you see, every person's process is different, okay? For me, I had to quiet my mind. I have to calm myself down. I had to start understanding my key thoughts, my key frequency, right? By me using meditation. That's when I started getting the downloads, okay? So, and it took me a while, because people think that there's a time frame for everything, right? Spirit doesn't work like that. Spirit will only reveal things to you when you are ready for it. So every person's spiritual growth will be different. Sometimes a person can meditate for a whole 6 months to a year, but nothing really happens. Because at the end of the day, this is what's going on. People want to meditate, and their sole focus or reason to meditate is to get downloads. That becomes a problem. You have these expectations, and yet you've had a whole lifetime of being indoctrinated by dogma, life's dogma. You've been controlled by the system from the time you were born till the time that you get the awakening. So it's not going to take you, or should not be taking you, 1 year or even 1 month or 6 months for you to be able to actually uh, get to that frequency, because meditation is a moment of contemplating your key thoughts without you really actively partaking in it. And how do you explain? Meditation is a focus, yes. Meditation is something very subtle, okay? Meditation is watching your thoughts, if you have any thoughts, right? But most people, when they start meditating, those thoughts rush in, because your mind is always constantly busy. Your conscious mind is constantly busy, you understand? It's constantly trying to recess to understand what's happening in your life experience, because your mind is a record, right? So your subconscious mind will trigger those um, thoughts that really triggered your emotions to come through. So you'll be questioning, they'll be going through while you're meditating. So the ideas, what I tell you when I teach you to meditate, is to watch your thoughts. Watch your thoughts and don't partake in them. Don't engage in your thoughts. Just watch them as they go. And you're breathing in and you're breathing out. So now breath is very powerful because breath keeps you in the now moments. It anchors you in the now moments. Okay, remember that we're breathing all the time. Our breaths don't stop. However, on a day-to-day basis, you're so busy with life, you're not taking a time to actually focus on your breath, the quality of your breath. So with meditation, you're allowed to focus on the quality of your breath, breathing in and breathing out, and you're allowed to now feel into it and relax into it. Right? When you're busy in your day-to-day business, you're moving around, you're doing your mundane work, whatever it is, you're actually not focusing on your quality of your breath, because you're so busy with other things. But on the back end, your body's doing its thing, because that's how it's engineered. It's a sophisticated technology, right? So your body's operating and doing 100 things at the same time, basically. Okay, so breath is one of them. But when you are meditating, you're saying, okay, now I'm focusing on this. I am here at this moment, and I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, and I can feel the quality of my breath. Okay, so what it does, it calms you. It calms your cells, calms your mind, it calms everything, your muscles, right? When it's finished, calm you. Okay, the next minute you continue breathing. Now you're breathing more deeply in. Okay, you're breathing more deeply in, and maybe you don't know nothing about the chakras yet, right? But when you get to learn about the chakras, then you understand it's powerful for you to pull in the breath from your root chakra up to uh, your third eye, right? Even up to your heart, right? And bring it down again. Then you understand that, oh, this is how this technology really works. Okay, this is how my macabre works, right? This is how this technology works. When I breathe in and focus and pull in the air in from my base through to my sacral chakra, to my solar plexus, to my heart chakra, to my throat chakra, I'm actually pulling through energy, right? I'm activating energy here, and I'm pushing it up to my third eye. Then I take it out to my crown chakra. Okay, so I'm actually moving energy through me, and I'm also activating my chakra energy wheels. I'm activating that energy to start circulating on in a conscious way. Remember that your chakras are always there, even before you found out that you had a chakra, even before you learned about the seven chakras or the many other chakras, because there's more than seven, but the ones that we're focusing on to activate ourselves are the seven ones, the ones I mentioned before, your base chakra, right, which is represents with the color red, and then your solar plexus chakra, which represents with the color orange, and then your solar plexus chakra represents with the color yellow, and it goes up to your heart chakra, represents with the color blue, right? And is it blue? Yeah, actually it's green. Sorry, it's green. Yeah. Then your throat is green, is blue, right? And then your third eye is indigo kind of color, indigo, sometimes even silver, whatever, right? And it goes up to the crown chakra, is normally just white. Okay. So now the color is not that important. Okay. What's important is your focus and the energy you're putting, because where your energy goes, right? That in where your focus goes, sorry, your energy grows, right? So that's what they teach you when you're meditating. Meditation is about you focusing, having intention. See, so meditation not only good for your mental health and your physical health, is also good to actually teach you about focus and what focus does, right? So focus really grows and really teaches you things, right? So when you're breathing in, you're breathing out. That's allowing you now to calm down, to understand your body, to engage with your body, to gain a relationship, because people are living in, like, how would I say, they're living like separated from themselves, because they're living in the hustle and the bustle. They're not connected to their bodies. Okay, so meditation helps you to connect to your body. That's the most important thing, and they can also help you to shift It adds to your shift, your awakening, because when you start doing that, you're opening all these centers within yourself, and you're telling divine source that I'm here, I'm ready for the information, I'm ready for the level up. Okay, that's what happened to me when meditation really helped me to get my awakening really, and get my downloads and connect my intuition and activate my third eye and my crown chakra and everything to open it up. Right now, once you have awakening, there's no going back. Okay, you may just numb it down, numb it down and don't pay attention to it, but you will never go back, because you are awakened, right? And you'll stay at the level. Now remember, there's levels of awakening, so you need to raise your frequency, right? So as you understand who you are, you're getting more information, you're doing those practices, right? Then there's an emotional shift as well, heightened sensitivity and empathy and tendencies, right? So most of us have empathy, and most of us are hyper empathetic, right? But now we've been going through life not understanding. People call you sensitive. Oh no, you're too sensitive, you're too caring, you're too soft, and yet that is your superpower, right? Your empathy is your superpower, because your empathy allows you to also love people as you love yourself, right? Empathy is a feeling. I understand your feeling, I see you. Namaste means I see you. I see the God in you, right? So empathy is something like that. I see you. I see that you're in pain. I understand that you're in pain, and I feel for you. You know what I mean? It's very important. It's a human way of being. It's really being human. For me, I think when you're awake and you truly become a human being, right? You're on your way to be a human that's divinely gifted with variable gifts that we're not aware about, right? So, so there's this emotional change that you experience, right? Which is very important. And it's, I mean, every person who's been through the awakening process has a heightened sensitivity of empathy, right? Intense emotional waves. I will watch TV, or I'll be watching a program, or I'll be listening to a story, and if it's sad, it really gets to me, and I'll cry. You know what I mean? Because now you get emotionally sensitive. You get my point, yes. Then there's a deep longing. Okay, where is it now? No, oh yeah. Okay, I'm getting confused with these points. So I said heightened sensitivity and empathy. I said intense emotional waves of grief, joy, fear, even fear. Everything just comes out. If you had a lot of things stuck in, for example, in your solar plexus, it all comes out, right? When especially meditating, because I remember in my early days of meditation, when I first started, right? I would meditate, and then in my meditations, I feel myself just crying, just pray, releasing all the stress and the pain of life that I've been holding. You know what I mean? Because we get fragmented, and our subconscious mind, including the body, which is part of the subconscious mind, stores all those memories. So when you're meditating, you're clearing and soothing. You're clearing and soothing. That's what you're doing. You're bringing breath into those areas that need to be soothed and cleared out. So you will have a lot of emotional uh, moments in your meditation, because of the fact now you're clearing and you're soothing, right? Which is very important. It's part of the growth factor of awakening, right? Get rid of all the grief, and express the joy, because people are numbed down and they're so focused on their problems, they don't focus on the joyous parts of life itself. Okay, so emotions are very a big part of who we are. Okay, we're emotional beings, and when you awaken, your emotional sense just gets so activated. You get extra sensitive. Okay, feeling everything and everyone is connected, feeling that connection with other people, understanding that you are not an island, that we're not islands, that we're all connected to each other, no matter which country you are from, no matter which tribe or religion or whatever culture you come from, we're all connected. We're coming from the same source, the same expression. Okay, so awakening will teach you that you are connected, that you are one, that we all have how would I say, a spiritual brotherhood and sisterhood. We all connected. That's what it does. It teaches us those things. Okay, You feel drawn to nature. A lot of people feel drawn to nature, and you want to be in solitude. You want to have introspection time. You become a hermit for that moment, as you know, as part of tarot, right? You become a hermit for that moment. You withdraw. You want to know more about yourself. You want to understand yourself more, right? Just want to have silence, okay, which is very important in the awakening process, okay. And then there's a mental and psychological shift as well. Well, this happened to me. Mental and psychological shift. Breakdown of ego. The sense of false self, yes, falls away. Breakdown of your ego. You understand that, yeah. My ego is good, yes. It's a good thing that grounds me in this reality. But there's more to life than just I. There's more to this whole experience of life than just the ego, right? That's what you learn. Okay? You learn that the ego is good, yes, but you also need to also control it and don't let it control you. Remember, you're the master. You understand when you're awakening, when you're awakening being, that you're a master of your reality, that you're not a victim, right? You understand that when to behave in certain ways, when to show up with the ego and when not to, when to use your masculine and your feminine energies as well. Okay, that's what happens with the psychological shift. Okay, you get all the materialism and statuses don't even seem to be important anymore, right? That's now. Maybe later on, some people come to this point later on when they realize that there's all this egos attached to the human labeling of your status in life. You a CEO, or you a manager, or you a husband, or you whatever. At the end of the day, all these things are just labels that we carry, right, for the mundane life, so we can cope in this reality called life. Okay, that kind of thing. And then there's the spiritual phenomena that also happens. Synchronicities and meaningful coincidences will be popping up everywhere. All of a sudden, you're getting like Mandela type of stories, you know, that Mandela syndrome, where you kind of, yeah, whatever it is, right? All those things, if you're interested in those type of things, something to do with synchronicities and seeing that this reality is not really moving very smoothly as it should be moving anymore. You see these glitches here and there. There was a lot about a few, I think 2 years ago. A lot of people speak about the glitches in the matrix and stuff like that, right? So you start recognizing those type of things because you're getting more now aware energetically of all these subtle things that you won't necessarily have noticed before the awakening, right? So the vivid dreams as well. This is what happened to me. Visit, 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 sorry, vivid dreams and visions. Yes, those are very important parts of the awakening, because then remember, your dreams give you a lot of messages, okay? And when you are taught that you need to pay attention to your dreams, you tend to pick up on messages which are very important that you would have not kind of noticed before your awakening, right? So vivid dreams and visions, very important. Psychic experiences, developing gifts, right? Like your clairvoyance will be activated. Now, this is what currently happening to me, right? Certain of my gifts are now being activated, right? So now I'm understanding that I am clairsentient, right? I got clear feeling, I get messages in my body, and then I get these downloads, okay? And then I get, like, if I ask a question to my source, to my higher self, or to my guides. I ask a question, and it'll answer me maybe a couple of hours later on. It'll come in like a drop in, it drops in, and you just see this vision. And then you say, okay, that's linked to that question I had, and you'll know exactly what it's linked to. You know what I mean? Even if it happens hours after you ask that question, right? Which is amazing, right? So that's how it works. This is what I've been experiencing. I'm getting all these like messages coming through and stuff like that. Things, spirit is trying to make sense of everything that I'm learning, and also answering my questions, right? And then you're feeling a strong connection with your guides and your ancestors. Yeah. Then you want to go more into ancestral veneration. You want to know your ancestors. You could have a altar table. Oh yeah, that also happened to me as well, right? I started having an altar table a couple of years ago. First, it was ancestral, altar table. It was just a spiritual table for me, Okay, then I started learning about witchcraft and magic and spell work and stuff like that. That's what happens in your awakening, because it's like you're like a child in a candy store with all these new things you're learning, and they're exciting. They're very exciting, but now they only can be exciting when you are ready for it. Most people are not ready for the experience of the awakening. Okay, they're still stuck in the dogma of religion that, oh no, going into ancestral veneration is evil, or going to all these things are evil, because all the dogma right now, with me, it took me a while to remove all the dogma of the religion, because remember, when you get baptized, they actually put a spell on you. Okay, that's like a spell on yourself. Really, you really put in a spell on yourself. Okay, you blocking your spiritual doors, your clairvoyance, your intuition, by following these old dogma type of religions, okay, that hold people back, right? But it takes a while for people to actually um, reject it and want to learn the truth of reality. Okay, it's just, life is boring if you're stuck in one space, right? So imagine, I used to ask myself, okay, because I did that whole born again thing. I served in the church, you know what I mean? I was a youth leader for a period of time. I served in the church. I did all those things. I was heading the prayer, what they call prayer warriors at one stage, all those things. I did all that, right? But I kept on asking myself one thing. This is years before my awakening. I kept on asking myself one thing. What next? What is next? What next? Once I've done all these things, I'm doing all these things now, what next? Okay, because for me it was like, okay, I'm seeing people going into all sorts of things, some people becoming pastors, whatever sort it may be, you know what I mean? But then again, later when I left the church, I started asking questions, because now Sunday was like a place, a Sunday like today, like Sunday was a time for me to go to church, right? So it becomes like a habit, you know what I mean? It's like it's something that's programmed into you, that you feel that Sundays are just for that, and then you do the same thing all your life until you wake up to reality. You know what I'm trying to say? Because you're going to church on Sundays, right? And but you don't see any difference in your life experience. You don't feel that freedom. You don't feel that peace within yourself. That peace and that freedom only lasts when you're there in that church. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because spirit is spirit, and spirit shows up anywhere, right? Now, for example, remember there's different types of spirits in terms of frequency. Okay, so you will be connected to a spirit that you align to. Okay, so divine source, God is there for people to go to church, right? That is something that's a given, because I can clearly remember feeling that fulfillment when I'm there in that church. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling the presence of God, feeling that peace for that moment. Okay, but as soon as I walked out of that church, as soon as I walked out, I went into my life. It's like a curtain that closes. I know the Old Testament, they speak about the inner section, where only the Levi families, or only those people that would speak and commune with God, would go and to that inner section, right? Then the ordinary people will be sitting outside. Now, in my mind, right, and understanding now that I am no longer a Christian, I don't follow religion. I understand now that that inner circle, that inner sanctuary, right? In spirituality, you go into it without even having permission, because you don't need permission, because you are divine source. You're part of divine source. So you're constantly in that inner sanctuary. You're not like sitting in the pool in the church and listening and waiting for the pastor to pray for you, whatever. You're not being like, how would I say, you're not being led, you are leading yourself in spirituality. Okay, so I think that that's the big change and difference between what I've experienced between religion and spirituality. I'm not waiting for permission, because I already have it. I was born with permission to commune with divine source. I was born with permission to experience that relationship with divine source, with God, you understand? With the creator of all things. I'm not talking about God, a God of the Bible called Yahweh. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about divine source, creator of all things. Because even Yahweh, that concept is it's a thought form, right? Created by certain people for certain reasons. So that's going into the history of Christianity, right? And maybe the history of this whole game of life, right? The parts that they don't tell us about, right? Okay, so let me go back to my topic. So when you have a spiritual awakening, right, you get a purpose. Okay, you decide. Okay, what is my purpose? Okay, so my purpose was always linked to love, peace, because when I was meditating for many years, the only things that really came out was peace. I need peace, I need peace, and it I kind of resonated with peace and love so much. You get my point? I need peace in my life, no matter what situation I find in, I find myself in, even if it's a situation I don't like, even if it's a situation that's challenging, I need to find that peace. So my mantra for my meditation has always been peace. I have peace. I feel peace. I am peace. So for many years, it was like that, right? Then I can understand what my guys were trying to do. They were calming me down and putting me, anchoring me down into peace. You understand? So every person experiences things differently, right? So you listen to those guided meditations. After a while, then you start seeing, okay, this is I can do this without the guided meditation. I can now do this maybe with the music and create my own meditation and just do like free flow type of meditation. Okay, those are very important. So once you find your peace, you then able to find your purpose because you center yourself. Okay, so the meditations will center you, right? You're listening to your thoughts, but not engaging in them, not having conversations with your thoughts, but you're listening to them, allowing them to just move. You understand? You calm. You aware what's going on, right? Then it's another concept you can also use as journaling. Journaling works for most people who cannot really do the meditation very effectively because they're impatient. Some people cannot sit still. It's just like, fidgety and stuff like that. Right? So journaling can also help. It helps with processing your emotions and your downloads, asking those questions and self-discovery. Very important, right? And then also spending time in nature, which I spoke about, the grounding, connecting to the earth and consciousness, understanding that you are one with the all. Then breath work is also very powerful. I love breath work because breath work really puts me into that zone. It really connects me with spirit. Okay. So 30 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour of just pure breath work, breathing in and breathing out, feeling the breath in your body, appreciating that you are alive can also open you up to higher frequencies, right? So the breath work can help you release old energies, old stagnant energies. That's where you get emotional. Sometimes you even feel this anger rising up, right? So it's don't because of the energies of life that's been kept there, and you haven't been kind of paying attention to them, right, in your chakras. So they're stored in your chakras, right? That fear, all the trauma of your life is normally sitting in your base chakra because most people are afraid of life itself, and they don't know that they're afraid of life. They just think they're afraid of situations. It's life in general that they're really afraid of because the situations are linked to life, right? So they're afraid of maybe things that they had trauma regards to when they were young children. Like for example, expressing your truth and giving your opinion. Some people are afraid to even talk because they're afraid of what's gonna happen because in their past experience when they were children, they were told that no, shut up, you must keep quiet. Children don't talk. They close up their throat chakras. Okay, basically they can't express themselves, and if you can't express yourself, it also affects your creativity, which is linked to your sacral chakra. So the chakras are really all linked. Okay, so when parents are telling their children to be quiet, children must be seen and not heard. You're actually shutting a child's chakra down. You're shutting a child down. Get my point? So then people have that problem. So what happens is when you are doing your deep breathing, right, that energy work, breath work and healing work, you're releasing all that old stagnant energies, all that trauma from your childhood and maybe even from your later years as well. Okay, that's also important. Shadow work, yes, shadow work. I'm sure this was being a buzzword, shadow work. People don't know what it is. Shadow work is quite an interesting and broad concept. You're facing and healing unconscious self. You are facing and healing the unconscious self. Okay, now your unconscious self is not your enemy. When you are doing shadow work, you're not getting rid of the shadow. you are embracing the shadow. But first, you're getting to know the shadow. You're saying, okay, I'm here to listen, I'm here to feel, I'm here to feel into you. You are now understanding your shadow. And now you are going to integrate it. Once you've known it, you face it, now you begin to integrate it, and don't remove it and don't fight it. Your shadows is a very important part of your consciousness, okay? Your collective consciousness, right? So the shadow work is very effective for you sorting out your life's dogma and also traumas as well, okay? Remember that with every experience we had when we were young children, every trauma that came through, right, there's a coping mechanism. Now, the shadows normally linked to the coping mechanism of your life traumas, okay, how you coped, okay, maybe, you know what I mean? Like the shadow, the one that would draw and didn't talk to people, the one that never expressed herself, that part that feels that it's wrong to express yourself, okay, that even if you are in a workspace as an adult and you're told to be truthful of your feelings, you're not allowed to do that because you already, your shadow will take control of that, and then you will now be using other techniques to try and suppress your true feelings of what you really feel is what you believe, right? So shadow work is very useful for that, okay? And it's a process, and you know what I mean? It's a whole long process of learning how to do shadow work, right? But shadow work is not based on you silencing your shadow. It's about you knowing, understanding, and embracing your shadow, right? And integrate it as well into your collective consciousness, right? Then your spiritual mentor and books can also help you. Reading spiritual books and find some mentors online, like, you know what I mean, like the uh, is it that chakra guy? What's his name? What is his name now? I can't think of his name anyway. But there's so many other Deepak, yeah, Deepak. Deepak was my first spiritual mentor, right? Because I read a lot of his books about what is God, who is God. Yeah, that one about God really shocked me because it was so in depth and deep the way he went into that book. You know, Deepak Chakra, is it chakra? Yeah, hey, so bad with names. Anyway, Deepak, his books are quite good, right? And his meditations too as well, because he also puts meditations. Now he's gone a bit older, right? But his books are always fantastic, right? Then there's also Abraham Hicks, right? Also one of the books that I read. Hey, there's quite a lot of books that I read, which are quite good for you, and they help you understand and help you in your part of awakening and understanding. And remember, when you become awakening, it's not making others the enemy. It's not about making religion an enemy. It's not about making people that are not awoke your enemy, because every person's going to evolve. Every person's going to awake when they are already at their time, if they meant to awake at this time, right? So we have to stay in our lanes. We have to respect other people, right? That's what I'm saying. Even in my channel, right? Although I've got I don't have a lot of followers, because not every person is into spiritual growth, right? And I respect that as well. So you will take what that resonates with you, and then you release or let go of those things that don't resonate with you. Okay, this is what I believe. Let people be. Okay, when they're ready, then they will then come for the information, ask the questions, and be excited to learn, right? But to force people to do something that they don't want to do, they're not ready to do yet, they don't even understand, because their consciousness is different, their level of awareness is different. Every person is on a different level of awareness, right? And we need to respect those people. But when they come to you and they want help, yes, then we help, because they say that the when the students is ready, the teacher shall be revealed, right? When the students is ready, then the teacher shall be revealed. So you have to be ready for this information. That's why I don't mind that I don't have a lot of followers on social media, especially on YouTube, right? Because I'm still building my channel. I know that not every single person in my vicinity of where the country I live in is actually into spirituality, and they're not every person is in spirituality, because people are still very religious, and I respect that. Okay, I respect that. But at the end of the day, I understand that what I put out there on my channel, what I am teaching, what I'm speaking about, is going to reach the right people at the right time, and I'm fine with that as well. You understand? Spirituality teaches you to be at peace with everything and everyone, right? And allow other people to do their things. When somebody claims to be spiritual and awoke, and they're forcing people to awake and forcing their own ideologies on people, then it becomes a problem. Then you must understand that person is actually not truly awoke. They're not truly awakened to reality. You understand? Because we need to give love. Love is very important. Giving people that space to make choices in their lives, and when they're ready, they're ready. When they're not ready, they're not ready, right? So it's not about making people that are not awoke, people that are still religious, your enemy. No, it's not about that, right? It's about you just, yeah, expressing your own experience, you just giving your own part of what you're experiencing, because you never know what you say to somebody and how it's going to help that person. You never know that there's somebody out there in the world that needs to hear this live, this information that I'm talking about. There's somebody out there, because when you are well awake, you don't become perfect, okay? Because it's a constant growth process. You will forever be learning and growing and evolving until we pause and leave the physical body and go into the spiritual realm, into the emotional body, right? With the emotional body, right? But we'll always be growing, right? We'll always be growing. So we need to have love and compassion for each other always. So spiritual growth is very wonderful. It's very amazing because it makes you see life differently. You even begin to love yourself, because the big thing about spirituality is to love yourself, right? Be selfish. Before you can be giving, you've got to be selfish. You need to fill your cup up first. Put yourself first before you're able to pour yourself out to other people, right? So spirituality teaches you that being selfish is not a negative thing. It's actually a very good thing. You nurture yourself so that you can be full and fit to feed others, to help others, to be that person you need to be, that leader, depending on what your purpose is, or maybe people have many different purposes, right? So yeah, that's what it's all about. Remember that spiritual awakening is not about becoming someone else. It's about you remembering who you really are beneath the conditioning of life. Okay, remember that spirituality is not about becoming somebody else, right? It's about remembering and becoming that person beneath all the conditioning of life from birth till now. Some people are getting triggered and becoming awoke early in their lives. You get more, others are happening later, like in your 40s or so. Other people's happening in your 20s. It happens at different times depending on your script, your life path, and what you're supposed to be doing here. Okay, basically in this realm called the Earth School. Okay, so yeah, those things we need to remember. So it's not always blissful. It can be confusing. Awakening is not always blissful. It can be confusing, emotionally isolating as well, or even overwhelming. It can isolate you when you're moving away from the status quo and you're going on another path that's not very popular, right? So everybody in their lives comes to a crossroads. Everybody comes to a point in their life where they need to make a choice. So a spiritual awakening is when you make a choice because you are curious. You cannot help it. It's your soul speaking, asking questions, right? Your higher self is trying to wake you up so that you can now do what you are supposed to do here to fulfill your purpose in this reality. Because we're not only here for the work, for the school, for the life experience, the mundane life experience, we're also here for the higher frequency things, our purposes, right? Okay, we have mundane purpose where you become an architect or an accountant, and then you work, and then you pay bills, and then you pension off, and then you get old, and then you die. Okay, that's the mundane part of it. Okay, that's the part that most people are only focused on that. So religion keeps you on the mundane. It keeps you a victim. Religion keeps you the one that's a sheep, a sinner. It keeps you a point of that level where you're not really understanding your awesomeness, right? So what I can say is in the past, since 2015, yeah, 2013 when I had my first awakening experience when I left the church. Since then, I've learned that love is so important. I've learned that loving myself and appreciating myself is so important. I've learned that I am a master for my own reality. I am sovereign being. I'm a sovereign being in every sense, right? And I've taken control of that, right? That's why I feel that my life is mine, right? I feel that my life is mine and I can live the way I want to live, and I cannot be controlled unless I want to be controlled. Okay, remember, it's always choice. Choice is everything. Okay, even in the space where you feel that you don't have a choice, you do have a choice. Even in the space where you feel you don't have a choice, you do have a choice, because choice is a gift. Okay, we close ourselves our choices by making other people take control, make the church take control, make this Yahweh God take control. So if you taking control of your life, okay? So most people will say I'm being blessed, blessing me, right? But I'm speaking my own truth. I understand that you need to, when you are ready, you'll understand what I'm talking about. When you are ready to see yourself as a divine sovereign being, right? You, the God of your own reality, your own life. You've given that authorities in the Bible. There are verses or a verse in the Bible speaking about that you are given the power to trample over snakes and scorpions. You are God, and there's a verse that says, "Don't you know that you are God?" Right? You are God, because that's what Jesus was here to tell us. The character Yeshua was then at that time to tell the people that you have the power. You can do much more than what I've been doing. All the miracles I've been doing, you can do much more. You understand that kind of thing. That's what he was talking about, the power that we have. Right. So remember that whole story about Jesus. That's not a full story. It's a story where they introduced him when he was 12 years old, right? Now when his mother was pregnant with him, apparently Mary, right? And then again when he was 12. And then there's a whole couple of years they skipped in the story. And then they showed again the New Testament where he comes about when he's 31 years old, okay? So now what he came to do in the story of the Bible, the whole totality of the whole Old Testament and the New Testament, he came to now bring forth life. Okay, because apparently the Old Testament is all about the taking, the plundering, the killing, the finding your part, forcing yourself on lands that don't belong to you, killing other people. Yeah, the Old Testament's got its own drama saga, right? It's like if you know, it's like watching a television drama playing out when you read that Bible, the Old Testament, that old storyline, right? And then you go to the New Testament now, okay? The introduction of Jesus, then it's like different. The energy is even more different. You know what I mean? They're speaking about love, kindness, now the normal plundering and all those things, but it's one book. So what I'm seeing that it's one book, but it's two different stories here, right? So the first story is just about the struggle of life, you struggling and being unawoke, you lost, you know, that kind of thing. You lost, you seeking redemption, you seeking, you know, always seeking, because you don't see yourself as enough, you don't see yourself as love. You give up, you're constantly sacrificing animals to this God Yahweh and all those things. You constantly, you know what I'm trying to say, right? In the struggle. So the Old Testament is about the struggle, right? So it's about the big struggle, the human collective struggle. Then the New Testament is about the awakening, now understanding that we don't have to struggle anymore. You understand that we don't have to, now that we don't have to focus on the physical things anymore. So let's focus on the spiritual things. It's like a balancing out, right? So the Old Testament and New Testament, yeah, it's a saga, right? But they both have a purpose, okay? But what I do understand is that people take the Bible too literal. Like, because I'm trying to say, like, this is a real solid thing. Remember that it's a story, and stories have frequencies. Stories have lessons behind them, so that those stories will have lessons and teaching us certain things that we need to understand about life, right? So we'll take that resonates to us, and then we get rid of the rest. We ignore the stuff that doesn't resonate with us. Okay, that's what I've noticed. A lot of people, when you speak to Christians, especially these apostolic born again Christians, they always quote verses that suit them, verses that push their own agenda. You understand that kind of thing. You see, so it's quite interesting. Not to say that religion is wrong, but being somebody who has been there and I've done it and I've experienced it, I can talk about it, right? But I do understand that your spirituality gives you much more freedom, much more space to grow without you feeling guilty for being who you are. You understand? Without you feeling fearful that there's a a God watching you, and there's this hell and all those things, you know what I mean? You open and you're free to try everything, and you understand the consequences because you understand the laws of the universe, you understand the law of karma, you understand the need for you to show love, you understand the basic laws, because even in spirituality there's laws, right? Not like the Ten Commandments, but spirituality has its own laws. So you understand that you need to express yourself in love. Your intention is so important, even if you are a witch practicing witchcraft. Your intention, are you helping people or are you destroying people, right? Are you healing people or are you just maiming people? What are you doing? What's your intention, right? So there's laws, and even if you are doing those things, right, you will get what's coming to you. Even if you're doing the negative things, you will get what's coming to you because you are actually putting spells upon yourself. You are putting witchcraft over yourself. You get my point? You're hurting yourself by you doing the negative things, right? So that's what I like about spirituality. You're not told this is wrong, this is right. You understand the laws. They tell you these are the laws, the 12 laws. What the 12 laws say, right? Follow. Do unto others, right? That you will do, expect yourself to actually receive, right? So if you kill somebody else, you know very well you will be killed somehow, some way, in something consciously, spiritually, physically, even not maybe not in not maybe not in this lifetime, maybe in other lifetimes, right? So it's all about keeping a balance, right? Spirituality is not about fear, it's about keeping a balance, about understanding yourself, understanding who you are, what you're here to do, and understanding that you're part of the whole of nature, that you are not alone, that you're not an island. That's what spirituality is about. It's about you. And spirituality has a lot of practices within spirituality, okay? There's a lot of them, a lot of them, lots. And I'm not going to go into that now because I need to finish my live. So if you have not as yet, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you like my topic, if you have any questions, just go ahead and engage as well, right? I will be posting this live, right? Probably tomorrow, and I'll make some small shorts as well. Okay, so remember, spirituality, spiritual awakening is all about you getting to know who you truly are, removing the dogma and the conditioning of life, understanding who you are in your totality, your true self, that you are divine, right? That you are here to experience life to its totality, not in fear but in boldness and with love. That's what life is about, right? That's what it's all about. So today, have a great Sunday, and remember, you are blessed, you are an abundant being, and you in control. You are sovereign being, so you need to take control of your sovereign life. Okay? Have a great day, and remember, be blessed, be well, be in peace always, right? Keep well.